let's jump into the recap. So if you're new to us, if you're new to the channel, we're the Pixelists, me and this green stuffed animal. The channel is mostly my descent into madness, but we also talk about Critical Role. So in our podcast, we cut out a recap every week and we host that separately on YouTube for your viewing convenience. So if you happen to find yourself on that recap right now and you're interested in hearing the full podcast where we discuss Critical Role, we theory craft, all that good jazz, then click the link below, check out the channel. You might find some things you like. Um, but without further ado, let's jump into the recap. So, episode 42 of Campaign 3, The City of Flowing Light. Alrighty, so we pick up with Bell's Hells having completed their long rest after the events of Chetney's trial with Sayadon and the streaking that followed. They wonder if Chet's actually a member of the Gorgine now, and Annalyn says that he's a member of the Orders, but if he wants to be an official Gorgine, he needs to come back and train with them for more than a couple of days. So everyone has breakfast, and FCG actually goes over and tries to learn how to cook rabbit from Manad, but meanwhile, Imogen messages Xandis and tells them to come pick him up and gives a quick description of the area they're in, so, they have a better chance of finding him. Laudna then goes to Fern to get her to teach her how to cast fire spells. They have a bit of a practice session, which ends with Laudna burning a decent chunk of the nearby forest and a few eyebrows. While they're practicing, though, they have a heart-to-heart, and Fern basically apologizes for flipping a coin when it came down to resurrecting her or Orem during the Odahan fight. And, Laudna, of course, forgives her. And meanwhile, while this is happening, Orem practices with his new sword, and Uther comes up and asks him, "That's a fine sword, what do you call it?" Orem says it's a tough decision because the sword was Will's and the shields was Derek's, so they're both really important to him, and he just isn't sure on a name for it yet. Uther says that his sword's name is the Jawtaker on account of the fact that he cleaved off the jaw of the man he got it from. So Orem talks and finds a little bit more about Uther, that he came from the Claret Orders originally, and from the Savalier Wood in Wildmount. And Chetney overhears this, but a little bit more on that later. Ashton approaches Annalyn and awkwardly asks if she couldn't show him a thing or two with the hammer. She smiles and spars with him and helps him focus his technique. And eventually the airship arrives, and Annalyn and Chetney have one last talk. She gives him a bit of advice on taming the beast and he asks her about Uther based on what he overheard earlier, and finds out that Uther, left the Claret Orders because he claims he left some sort of wound on his past, and, because of what he did, home was no longer home. But he's happy to have found a new home here. So everyone then boards the airship, but Manad actually, there's this moment where he stops Fern before she leaves and is like, "Hey, you and your friends were real cool. Like, if y'all ever wanted to come back, like, that'd be totally sick." And, Fern blushes and is basically like, "Okay." Uh, so everyone boards the ship, and Xandis tells them, it's about 2 days for the rest of the way to Eos, and they head off. So for the first day of travel, FCG rolls and gets a natural 20 for the day of traveling, which means everything is smooth sailing. FCG goes and finds the chef, Denalia, and tries to make Estros's cookie recipe with her. And meanwhile, as they're traveling, Xandis is basically giving a history lesson as they fly over different parts of the continent. They fly over specifically Corio and the Hablon River, and down the Panagrip Sands. I believe these are all like the POIs that are actually mentioned. And that's basically the first day of travel. The next day comes, and Orem finishes his crude carving of the wolf that he was making for Chetney, and he goes down and gives it to him. Chet says Orem is, one of the bravest people he knows, but but that this carving sucks. So, but it's the thought that counts. So, he also gives Orem one of his chisels for future projects, and Orem then shows Chet like the capabilities of his new sword. I mean, same sword, new capabilities, but probably just gonna keep calling it new sword for clarity. So he shows it to him, and he actually tells Chetney that he has named it, and it is Seedling, the Wayward Pilgrim. So they have a nice little moment. So Fern actually is the one rolling for this next day's travel, and she hits an 11. There's no major incidents, so just the weather's a little bit worse. Xandis again is pointing out things. He points out the shallow lands, they're like this rough and tumble area that's full of lots of crazy elemental magic. But then they're approaching Eos, and there's a very enormous lake ahead, Lake Coron, which is the center of Ashanador and what Eos is built upon. Xandis always also points out Aruat, I think that's how you say it, a fishing village, and eventually a massive cluster of buildings and lights come into view, and it is the city of flowing lights. There are bridges connecting all certain parts of the city, and there's like this three-tiered like lake with waterfalls that basically everything is built upon, and all the lights from the city are reflecting gorgeously off the water, and that's why it is called the city of flowing light. Everyone is thinks it's absolutely gorgeous. And as they approach, they go into the Lake Cap Skyport lounge and dock. And the party head off the dock and try to decide what to do first. And that's actually where we go to break. So, Jeremy, are you feeling up for tackling the second half? Yeah. All right. Go for it, buddy. All right. Good job with the first half. So we pick back up with the crew arriving, and they're being greeted by Port Captain Lirios, a half-elven woman who asks what their business is and how long they all be staying. And Imogen tells them they're here to study. And she finds out that it's 50 gold for the week or 10 gold per day to dock the ship. So Imogen pays for the week, and Xandis takes them all into the lounge. It's nice there, and there's several games a chance to play, so party decide to stay here for the night and kick back. Ashton gets everyone some drinks, and they begin to look around. Chetney says if you win enough, they'll give you a free room. So Fern gets to talking to a guard and tells him that she's a professor, and she learns of the three rings of the city. We've got the Dominion Ring, which has the Adenland Seminary. We have the Endeavor Ring, which they are currently above and contains the business oriented aspects of the city. And finally, we have the Venture Ring, which is more urban and has the fishing docks. Gang then decides, well, why don't we do some gambling? And Laudna has this idea with Chetney to try and cheat using pate, but group ultimately decides that it's probably not a good idea since they just got there and don't want to bring too much heat on themselves. So they decide to just do some regular old cheat-free gambling. Now, there's a couple games here that are on offer at the lounge. We've got the Griffin's Wall, which is a dice game that basically akin to blackjack. You're trying to get to 21 without going over. And Fork of the Storm, a card game that's still played with dice, but it's more akin to Texas Hold'em. Each player can roll a dice, a d8 to be specific, and they hide the number. Then everyone rolls a d6 in public, and finally a d4 in public. Now, between each of those dice rolls, there is a round of betting, and whoever has the highest total at the end wins. So, the party starts with Chet, Fern, and FCG playing some Fork of the Storm, and FCG actually casts Divination to decide how he should gamble, and that's a spell that costs 25 gold just to cast. And the Changebringer tells him to fold. So, for the sake of brevity, Chetney actually ends up winning here a pot of 654 gold, 80% of which he gets to keep. He tells the dealer he wants the presidential suite and is told to talk to Freya about the rooms. Then we have Imogen, Laudna, Ashton, Orem, and Chetney go play around at the Griffin's Wall. And every single one of them wins against the dealer, with four of them getting exactly 21. Meanwhile, Fern and FCG go speak to Freya a bit about getting a room, and FCG tells her they want a really nice one, and Freya says that'll be 12 gold. FCG then brings up how Chetney said you can sometimes get a free room, so he mentions they're spending a lot of money and they should be given the royal treatment. And he casts Fast Friends on her. She rolls a natural 20, unfortunately, so Fern suggests they just pay and tell Chetney they got it for free. She then tips Freya 5 gold and asks if Chetney asks to please tell him that the room was comped. They return to the rest of the party, and we have another round of the fork gambling game. So The dealer ends up winning this round, but FCG lets everyone know, hey, at least we got the room comped, and everyone actually inside checks this and knows that they're lying except for Chetney. The party is then approached by a Mr. Landon Crayshaw, a United gentleman, which is a half orc, half elf, who identifies himself as a host of the city. He can take you around and guide, help the party with anything they may be looking for. Party tells him they're traveling troop visiting the city, and Orem puts on a little Cirque du Soleil performance to help sell it. Imogen casts detect thoughts on Landon and finds that he's extremely impressed and super excited that he got to this group first. They find out he's 5 years out of college where he studied carpentry, and this, of course, excites Chetney. And they find out that it's 5 gold for a half day of his guidance and 8 for the full. The party decide to meet with him in the morning, and Chetney decides he'll give him a little test on carpentry, and if he fails, there will be a penalty to pay. The party then head to their room, and it's very nice. They decide to order shrimp cocktails, and Ashton at one point calls Pate over and tells him that while inside Laudna's head, they saw the birth of Pate and that they all really care about her and will keep her safe. Pate agrees, and Ashton looks him deep in the eyes and says, if that's Delilah in there, I will murder you if anything happens to Laudna. Pate's a bit freaked out by this, but Laudna says that's just how Ashton makes friends. Imogen then goes to take a bath and closes the curtain, but she then casts invisibility on herself and jumps out the window, casting fly and soaring over the city. She then casts sin into her mother, telling her she's in Eos and asking if she is. Her mother responds and says that Imogen should stay there to stay safe, to stay away from her. Imogen says, I can't. I'm getting swept up in this, regardless if I stay away from you or not. And her mother responds, saying, I've given up so much to keep you safe. If you run toward me, you will definitely be swept up in it. Imogen then spends a bit longer flying outside Eos before she returns to the room, and everyone finds a night's rest. They wake up the next morning and go over their to-do list. We got Lord Preston Drodelon living here, Evan Holt Kai, and of course, Imogen's business at the seminary. So the group goes and meets with Landon, and he guides them to the seminary, pointing out all the local points of interest along the way. They learn about the city and, of course, see a lot of its beauty. They learn that the Fairy Guild is run by Sarah Bundin, and Landon also points out that there's lots of reconstruction happening here in the city, rebuilding parts that were damaged during the Apex War. At the Tri-Bridge Plaza, there is a large statue of an Orcish warrior, exemplar Mani Drogodon. He also points out a couple of shops to the party, Trudge the Glimmer and Traverse Rarities. He points out that the Northern Dominion Ring is the most erudite part of the city and includes the palace, the seat of valor, home to the court of the Lambent Path, and also the Rose Marble Amphitheater and the Cobalt Saul Library, and finally the Aidenland Seminary, a massive castle all connected by walkways, possibly the greatest college in all of Exandria, has a strong rivalry with the Terratel Conservatory. Landon approaches the seminary and tells him that he cannot go with them inside, but he will wait outside if they would like to retain his services, which they do. As they begin to walk in, they hear a bit of a commotion above them and look up to see an avian creature with cloudy eyes and a hooked beak looming over them, and it immediately swoops towards FCG, and that's where the episode ends. Yo, Jeremy, great job, man. And your voice sounds a little bit different, but there's Blake's sick. There's a lot of things going around. You just sound a little hoarse or something. But I mean, that's beside the point. Great job, dude. Thank you, thank you. So yeah, that was episode 42 of Critical Role Campaign 3, The City of Flowing Light. Once again, if you find yourself on this recap, you're you're probably not, because this episode's weird. Well, no, not you're probably not. Oh my god, I need a nap. If you find yourselves on this recap and you would like to see our full discussion, which there isn't one for this episode, there might be actually. Actually, there is going to be one. If you find yourself On this recap, I really should edit this, huh? Should I edit this out? If you find yourselves on this recap, click the link down below to see the full discussion where we will be theory crafting, discussing, sharing our dreams, maybe our nightmares. But anyway, you can find that in the link below. And normally, I will not be this crazy. There'll still be some level of insanity for sure, but it won't be like this. And I will have an actual human partner. And in a normal episode, under normal circumstances, you could click the link below to see the rest of the episode. But thank you, Jesus Christ. I hope you're not new to the channel and this is the first you're seeing of us. But if so, this is a special moment.